Hello there! As you can tell from the title of this video, we have something very special in store. So this is not going to be a recipe video per se, but it's more of a how-to of how to create a multi-tier, in this case a 2-tier cake, but you can use the same technique to create 4 or 5-tier cakes, as well as how I usually pack and deliver a wedding cake. So I thought it'd be fun if you joined me along for this journey of how to create a wedding cake from start to finish. So some backstory on this cake is that the couple who reached out to me, I've actually never personally met them, and I've done a handful of weddings in the past, but they've all been for friends or people who I personally know. And so the couple, the groom's brother, I do know, but the couple themselves I've never met. And a few weeks before their wedding was to take place, their venue just canceled on them, which included a package that had a wedding cake included. So that's where I came in. So they reached out to me, asked if I would be able to do a wedding cake for them, a 2-tier cake, mainly for the cake cutting ceremony. And as you probably know, New York is still under some strict guidelines in terms of large group gatherings and indoor activities. So this is all going to be outdoors. And so it's a little bit of a different change of pace from what I usually do when it comes to any kind of wedding or event, but very apropos of the times that we're living in. So I thought, why not document it and share it, and hopefully it turns out better than any cake that they had originally imagined. So first I'm gonna start on the top tier, which is a rose vanilla bean berry. To start the top tier, place a cake board on the bottom. This one is an 8-inch. And then we're gonna place another one on top, which is 6-inch, that has a hole in the middle. And you'll understand why later. Then place your first layer of cake right in the center. And we're gonna pipe a ring of frosting around the bottom. Just like that. And then take an offset spatula and frost all along the sides. This is just to secure the cake into place so it doesn't move while we frost it. Next we're going to take more frosting and just pipe a ring around the top of the cake as evenly as possible. And this we're going to fill with fruit. So first the strawberries. So make sure you really pack as many strawberries into it as possible. Don't skimp out. Nobody likes when you have 2 pieces of strawberries in the whole cake. And then take your blueberries and fill in any gaps now with the blueberries. It looks good already. Then take a dollop of the rose frosting and just spread it over the fruit, really cementing it into place. So it's nice and evenly spread. And then place your second layer right on top. And we're just gonna repeat the process again with frosting and more fruit. Final layer right on top. Okay, so now we're gonna frost the cake, and you wanna start off by taking your frosting, and right now we're just gonna roughly cover any of the gaps, especially where you see the fruit, and then take your offset spatula, my favorite tool, and just lightly spread it evenly all around the cake. This, do not worry if it's not pretty, because what we're going to do is take our bench scraper right here and use that to spread it even more smoothly along the sides of the cake. It also comes in handy to push the cake back into place because we apparently did not do a good job securing it. and then take a little more frosting on top and spread it evenly across the top of the cake. And this is called the crumb coat. It provides a good base so that when we do the final frosting, everything will be nice and smooth. If you wanted to stop here, you totally could, and it would be more of a sheer cake finish, which I think is actually really pretty. But this one, we're gonna frost more. So crumb coat, done. Now this is gonna head into the fridge, and we're gonna move on to the next tier, which is matcha chocolate. So just like with the first tier, I have another cake board here. This one is larger, it's 12-inch, and I'm putting another cake board on top of this one, which is an 8-inch. And the reason I'm doing this is I'm going to transport this on top of a cake pedestal later, so it'll make it easier. Place the first layer of cake, and then pipe a ring of chocolate frosting all around. Perfect. So instead of filling this with fruit, we're gonna fill this with more chocolate frosting. Spread that evenly all around the cake. And then take your matcha white chocolate filling and do the same thing. We're gonna have this be a two-tone frosting effect, which is pretty cool. And the matcha filling is really delicious. It tastes like a matcha Kit Kat, if you've ever had that. And pretty much just do the same thing. Dollop some matcha filling, spread it evenly, and just repeat the process with more chocolate and more matcha, more cake. Now frost the matcha chocolate cake with its crumb coat and let it chill as well. Now we're gonna do the final frosting of the rose vanilla bean berry. And this time be really generous with the frosting. Just cover all the sides with frosting and use the bench scraper to smooth it out. And you're gonna have some bubbles and some gaps. That's totally fine. We're just gonna go really slowly and try to smooth it out. I'm also adding little dollops of this blush pink look, and I'm gonna spread that all throughout and smooth it. This gives a bit of a swirled, like marbled effect, which is really pretty and goes well with the couple's color scheme for their wedding. And again, this is the part I go really slowly and take my time because you do want it to look really clean. And the same thing goes with the matcha chocolate. This is where it gets really fun because now you can start to see the cakes come together. And now that they're fully frosted, these are gonna chill in the fridge overnight. So I will see you in the morning. So it is now the next day. The cakes have been in the fridge overnight. So now what I'm going to do is stack them on one on top of the other and make sure that they're secured in place. I think this is the part that really intimidates people when they're thinking of tiering or stacking cakes, but it's actually pretty simple. And if you just follow some really easy rules, you'll have no problem as well. So let's turn these cakes into a wedding cake now. So first start with the chilled bottom tier. And I'm gonna take 4 bubble tea straws and an 8-inch cake board, which has a hole I'm gonna poke out from the center. This one already has a perforated hole in the middle, which is really convenient, but just use like a scissor if you don't have that. Place it right in the center, and then take your first straw and poke it
all the way down. And make sure it hits the bottom of the cake board. And lift. This is the center dowel now. Next, take another bubble tea straw and mark where it hits the frosting on the top, right there. And that's where we're gonna cut the straw, just with some scissors. Cut it right where it's marked with the frosting. And then make sure it is exactly the height, if not a little taller than the cake itself. That's great. And then I'm just going to use that as a guide to cut the remaining straws. Make sure that they're all the same height because they're going to provide the main structure for the top tier to sit on. So we don't want it to be crooked. Then place them in a triangle shape around the center dowel, like so. And then just take your finger and push them straight down. And you're gonna hit some resistance just because the cake is cold and there's a lot of butter in it. All right. I usually take the other straw and press it down just to make sure it hits all the way to the bottom of the cake. Nice. Now what I'm going to do is cover the tops of the straws with some extra frosting and just pipe just a bit on the tops all around. And I'm also going to pipe some in between. This is going to act as a glue for the top tier to stick onto. Take the top tier from the fridge and we're gonna slide it off the cake board it's sitting on. Remember, it's on another one, so this should be pretty easy, but just go really slowly, use your offset spatula and just slide right under it, and then use your hand and the spatula to lift it very gently. And then we're gonna place it, oop, wait, I forgot to do something. Yeah, do that before you lift the cake. But if you remember, we have a hole in the bottom of the cake board, so just match it up and let it fall. Use another cake board to kind of smash it down. This is why it's important to make sure your cakes are very cold. You're gonna notice that where the two cakes meet, there's a gap, and that's totally fine. We can easily cover this up by piping some more frosting to kind of cover that. So pipe it all around. And then take a paper towel and an offset spatula and just smooth it out. And then you really shouldn't be able to see it at all. Some people like to pipe like decorative frosting around to cover the gap, but to be honest, I think that's really ugly. So I prefer this method because it looks a lot cleaner and more seamless. Like the two cakes are really just one. And there you go. Along with the cake, I also pack a cake supply kit, which contains tools and some things I may need, including paper towel, offset spatula, large and small, scissors, chopstick, some extra frosting, and edible flowers for decoration. And I just put that all into a nice tote bag that I'll take with me. Alright, so now I have everything ready, my cake and supply kit packed, so let's go.
My strawberry kisses, I could fly through the wind. Boy, you're the top of my list. I'm falling head over toe.
So it's been a few days now after the wedding, and I wanted to give a quick recap of how everything went. On my part, I thought it went so well. It was so seamless and everything went smoothly. But I do get really nervous doing weddings. I get nervous even making things for my friends and my family. So weddings really put the pressure on just because it's a lot of expectation. But even with that, I thought it went really smoothly for, you know, a couple that I had never met before. And I was just hoping that it was what they had wanted and expected, and that it was everything that they had dreamed of, since it is such an important thing. And I know that for so many couples this year, things haven't been what they expected in terms of weddings getting postponed or, you know, reimagined in a way that was much simpler than what they had initially anticipated. But it just reminded me, just being there, that the really important thing is obviously being surrounded by people who really care about you and support you and just want the best for you, including a stranger who just is really invested in the cake that you have for your wedding. So I hope you enjoyed following along. This was a little different, like I said before, than my usual recipe videos, but I thought it would just be really fun and very relevant during this time, which I think is something we can all relate to. So if you enjoyed this video, please feel free to like, subscribe, etc. down below, and I can't wait to see you again for my next baking video. Bye!